Taxation is theft.
Please, at least leave us alone in our living room.
My job is to find the truth.
Double the taxes. I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. Triple the taxes.
This is an IRS agent's dream.
If you think that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourself.
Beautiful, lovely taxes.
Sorry, but I don't do taxes.
Did you see the memo about this?
The government is a greedy piglet.
Just leave us alone.
Do you know what Ralph just said?
The roads.
You boys like Mexico?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
Welcome back. Taxation is Theft, and we have today, of course, the most awesome show you have ever seen with the three most greatest presidential candidates who have ever run for the Libertarian Party nomination, Mr. Brian Ellison and Mr. Vermin Supreme. What's going on, guys?
Not much.
Hi! How are you, Dan? Ryan, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you guys had me on.
Vermin sounds as excited as a schoolgirl who just got her free pony.
I am super excited, or at least I'm pretending to be so very well. Thank you very much. It's good to be here. I didn't know I was going to talk like this, but here we are.
Oh man. So how you guys holding up during this lockdown? You get all your essentials in?
Yeah, it's been interesting for me. I've managed to maintain my job working from home, and but we've got a full house, so I've got my three kids with me, and everybody's going stir crazy. So three teenagers, if you can imagine, stuck with me and my mother, in fact. So there's five of us in this 3-bedroom house, and it's been pretty interesting. But we're doing all right. We got money coming in. We got food. What else can you really ask for, I guess, you know?
Yeah, it's good to hear. How about you, Mr.
Well,
Vermin?
me and Becky, we haven't killed each other yet, and so we're doing okay. We've got plenty of food. We've got plenty of weed, because here in Massachusetts we can grow our own, so we always got a little bit of weed going on.
Nice.
And it got the internet connection, which is very important in this day and age.
Are you growing any tomatoes or anything?
It's a little early in the season, but we are starting up our gardens in earnest, as I imagine many people will do in light of this current situation and the verge of the collapse of civilization and all that thing on the horizon. I think that's going to be quite the wake-up call for people wanting to be just a little more self-sufficient, perhaps, or at least have the real stockpiles that they really need. And running out of toilet paper, yes.
Oh, that's weird. Someone said they have no audio, but they do now, and I didn't touch anything, I swear. Yeah, no, that self-sufficiency it's something. Well, do you guys want to talk serious issues, or you want to have some fun? I mean, don't ask me to like prompt the fun, because I'm not really that fun of a guy, but stop.
I mean,
me.
Let me ask you a question, Dan. Is there really any serious issues worth talking about at this point?
Other than Corona? No. I mean, other than how much the government sucks?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
know,
say we just follow Vermin's lead.
Yeah, Vermin, you're in charge.
Okay, everybody talk like this.
Okay.
It will make a very entertaining episode. A super entertaining episode.
Well, would you like to talk about this like this?
Let's talk about the fucking government and how they're screwed up and people are dying left and right.
Oh my God, it's insane, isn't
it? And you can't get the fucking protection that they need to keep from getting the sickness. Oh, God help us.
But aren't you down with the sickness?
No, I'm scared like anybody else. You don't want to touch a doorknob and be around somebody who coughs or sneezes. Oh, Jesus, it's a horror show out there.
I never liked touching doorknobs in the first place. I would always be the one. You see, like when you guys are using the handle at the airport, like in the bathroom, and you're pulling the handle open, you're touching my foot because I just kicked that. I just like put my foot up there, like.
Oh yeah. No, that's fair. I think that's a standard practice, and even
somebody
pre-corona times.
Somebody came up with this like genius thing where like where like, what is it? It's like it was a way to open a door by like, by using the back of your hand. So instead of touching the doorknob, they put a thing that's like this, and you put your arm in it to like push it down. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool, but somebody else already invented one that like connects all the way to the floor, so you just push it with your foot.
They also have these. They usually have a trash can by the door, so you can grab your paper towel. You dry your hands off, grab a paper towel, and then open the door, and then throw the paper towel away, and then you're gone. You don't ever have to touch it.
Yeah.
I try and use the window whenever possible.
That works too.
So Deidre is she's a minarchist, and she's asking us to talk to her.
Statist.
In which way would you like for us to talk to you?
I don't know that I can do the voice. I'm scared to try. Like, I'm afraid it'll
Come
crack.
on,
like,
man! It's totally awesome.
I'm afraid I'll sound like a teenage boy. Like, it'll. Vermin's got a lot more practice. Like, he does this.
So we don't look so bad fucking around.
If I get the nomination, I'm going to talk like this the whole general election.
Oh, that would be hilarious. You would. There would be people like trying to like censure themselves so they could get rid of their lifetime memberships.
I think those people, when they left, I think that would be the best thing that happened to the party. So cross your fingers.
Right.
Humorless bastards, you mean?
Yeah,
something like that.
There's so much. I'm really kind of pissed off about how many people like there are these supposed anarchists who are like all over my page, and like I shared this post, I guess this weekend somebody started this thing where like they want to have like a march on your city hall. So like wherever you are, go to your city hall. And I'm like, I'm posting it, and like of course I'm always saying wear your mask, wash your hands, don't shake people's hands if you go out. But I'm like, go out and fucking march on these people, because they're just testing their power to keep us self imprisoned, and it's working. And I'm like, we can't stand for this shit. And all these anarchists that are like, yeah, fuck the government, they're like, but I want to protect my own health, so I will never leave the house. That's like Paul Revere. Come on, man, the British are coming, and they're like, whoa, I don't want to get shot, man. I hate the British, but I don't want to get shot. Okay.
Yeah, it's different. Like,
it is, but
it's totally different. So like, because I like, if it's up to me, I'm going to err on the side of caution and protecting my family. And so, does it make sense right now to go out and there's nobody to see you protesting? Like, what are you going to go protest? Like, you're going to hope you get arrested? Like,
if it's empty, fucking, well, I didn't say this, but I'm just saying people could loot the place. I mean, let them know. Because, I mean, look, we used to tar and feather politicians, and now we're just like, we don't like what you're doing to us, and we're going to talk about it on Twitter.
No, I agree with you in principle, 100%.
So what
the
is
problem
there then,
is that we've just waited too long. Like, okay, if we would have done it before a pandemic, all right, let's go tar and feather all the politicians and the tax collectors. Now we waited, and there's actually a legitimate health concern, and all these people now all of a sudden are motivated. Oh, let's go out in the street and march. Like, where were you 2 months ago? Where were you?
Shoulder to shoulder, 6 feet apart.
2 months ago, they were like, well, that'll never happen in the United States. So it's, but I mean, and this is the thing, like for people like us,
give it a few weeks, give it a few months of people being unemployed and not being able to provide, then things might get a little different. The situation may alter.
That's where we're heading. Because I mean, look, how long are people going to be locked in their homes and jobless before they're like, you know what? Like, as much as I care about my health, I need to go get food. And then all the stores are closed because all the employees are considered non-essential now, whatever. So all the stores are closed, and there's no food, or they just can't open the door. What are they gonna do? Smash the windows and loot? Like, if they try to suppress the economy, like, I mean, what happens with prohibition, right? Prohibition is technically the suppression of an economy, and violence and black markets ensue, right? So what are they doing now? They're attempting to suppress the entire economy, which is basically prohibition of a million things all at once. And like, yeah, it seems like, and believe me, I totally get the idea of protecting your family and being safe and all this other stuff, but how long until like a crazy ass black market with all kinds of violence, just like of people, just like, we're sick of it, we've had enough? We're not staying in our homes, and those are going to be the crazy, irrational people who they're not going to march on the leaders and the police departments and the city halls. They're going to march on the stores and the food supply and everything, and they're going to like cause chaos and shut everything down. So I don't know. I mean, and I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know for sure that's the way things are going to go, but I don't know.
It's one possible future, Dan.
You should tell us, Vermin.
That's
Travel.
the way one time stream might occur.
Go there and tell us. What do we do? What happens? What happens in the future?
What happens in the future? Absolute and utter cooperation.
So how do we get there? What are this like? Give us. Let us know so we can like rest calmly in our homes and know that shit's not going to descend into chaos.
Well, we don't know that for sure, but we have the time, the current opportunity to consider all the possibilities. I think a lot of people are certainly questioning why things are the way they are. I mean, it's obviously a huge culture shift. Gee, maybe I don't have to drive 2 hours through rush hour traffic to get to my job when I can just do it here. Maybe I don't have to go to school today because I can learn right here.
And that's great, but we're stuck in a system where, because I mean, like that would be perfect if you didn't have property tax for one, and if people who bought their homes actually own them because, like, you know, these government programs weren't in place to put us in debt for 30 years to buy a house, and you know all these other things.
That's very true. Well, once we declare that all debt is illegitimate, it'll be very easy to shovel out the economy.
That's true.
And even if not all of it is, certainly all government-backed or based debt is arguably illegitimate debt, and that includes like most of the student loans. So there is, if we were collectively or as a nation or whatever to decide that yes, the government is illegitimate and their lending of money is certainly an illegitimate function of it, and they're just printing up the damn stuff anyway. You know, I'm liking. I've been sharing some things about the Jubilee. Are you familiar with the concept of the biblical Jubilee, where every 7 years, or every 50 years, they would essentially abolish debt, and things would start fresh, start new.
That sounds like a great idea. I've never heard of it.
And
that sounds like Purim.
So it's the Jubilee or the debt Jubilee, and free the slaves and cancel the debt and start fresh. What could be a bigger economic stimulus than that? Than canceling people's debt and freeing up that money. I mean, ultimately, I mean, how much are people paying monthly on credit card debt or on the student loan debts, or, you know, all these various government-backed debts, if nothing else? I mean, the banking industry is certainly backed and provided by it all.
And that's what a lot of people.
And obviously, though, that creates an issue with our monetary system, though, right? Because the entire monetary system right now is based solely on debt. So you wipe out the debt, and then there's no dollars that are in existence anymore.
Well, that's a good point, but I've considered this, and don't anybody quote me on this because it is just a thought at this point. But okay, printing money is bad. However, destroying money is also bad. And when you destroy debt, you're destroying money, right? You're destroying the debt money that's in circulation.
Okay.
So so inflation is bad, but deflation is also bad. So what if when you discharge a debt, which would reduce the money supply, you're right, you print money in an exact equal amount to counter the deflation, and basically pay off that debt. So now you're inflation neutral, but you're getting rid of the debt and there's more money in circulation. Now, where exactly does that money get injected? I'm not sure, but at the same time, you have to tell
I would give it to the person who owed that money.
Who was owed that money? Because if you think about it,
the person whose debt it was, I would give it to them.
Well, so you'd give it to, so, but Dan's kind of saying the opposite. He's saying give it to the banks. Like, so the banks created this money out of nothing anyway. So
right,
with
but
fractional
that money
reserve
is
lending, they're printing as much money as the government is, if not more.
The Fed, yes, but remember all the banks.
The
banks do too.
That's in your account and my account. That's our
No,
money.
it's but they're able to lend more than what they have. So
Exactly.
it's just another way of creating more money. So they can create they lend money that doesn't exist.
Right, but so like let's say
It's magical.
you
It
have
is
100 in the
magical.
bank and I have 100 in the bank. The bank really only has 20. So what I'm saying is because somebody borrowed 180. So now if you give the 180 to the person, they pay off the debt. Now the bank actually has 200, and now I actually have 200 in my account, and you actually have 200 in your account, and everything balances out. Those are of course, imaginary numbers, but that's kind of the idea.
Now, so my understanding of the way that works, though, is that when they write a loan, they take the IOU that where you wrote the loan, and that becomes an asset that goes on their
Right.
books. So they have $100, they loan $90, and they have an IOU for 90. So their books are showing that they have $90 worth of assets, which means they can loan against it.
Right, but that so yes, but the IOU that they create has to be in proportion with their actual deposit. So when if somebody deposits $100, they're able to create like 80% $80 worth of IOU to lend out. So yes, you're right, but there's some and the amount that they're able to lend out is of course a government regulation. So if they change the government regulation to say no, you can't lend out any money until you're up to 100% reserve, unless you like people want a high risk interest bearing account, then give them that freedom. But that's not what most people believe they have.
Ultimately, it all comes down to the ponynomics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because ponies will just keep pooping out money.
Yes, because once we
Well, they'll keep pooping out ponies.
yes, and once we have universal pony ownership, then we will have the equity in the ponies that we then own. Now, once you have equity, then you can borrow against it, because very few people are going to lend you anything unless you have some sort of equity. But once you have the equity in the pony, then you will be able to borrow against it. That way, you will be establishing a class of pony-based debt. Now, once again, of course, debt is an amazing part of the economy. It's huge. And once we do that, so we are going to be building a huge pony debt bubble in the economy.
Is it going to pop? Do we have to worry about that?
It will never pop. I mean,
So
bubbles are, it's steel and it's reinforced and steel belted, for God's sake.
So, so
not gonna
how does
pop.
it? When you take a loan against the equity that you have in your ponies, is it paid in additional ponies? Like, is
Probably, but
that
more than
that
likely.
They reproduce, so
mode of currency, right?
there's-
Okay.
there's
Or
kind of a
pony
built-in-
pieces, perhaps.
built-in inflation there. Yeah, if you borrow a pony, it will reproduce, and it actually creates the interest that you have to pay back.
Well, if you have access to a pony of the opposite sex.
A steed. Well, here's what's interesting about ponies, because a lot of people are talking about reparations and 40 acres and a mule. And what's interesting about mules is because this is like an intergenerational thing, right? This is intergenerational wealth that has been stolen and they want to recover. But if people had received 40 acres and a mule 100 years ago, the mule would be dead, and the mules don't reproduce, so they'd be left with nothing. But if they got 40 acres and a pony, they could go to their next door neighbor, mate the ponies, they'd have more ponies, and they'd still be left.
Infinite pony wealth.
They might have 40
Infinite
acres
pony
and 40
wealth.
ponies by now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's something very yeah. I mean that's typical government shit. Yeah, we're gonna give you something that's so fucking worthless. You'll be able to use it for a couple of years, but we're gonna tax it right back away from you. So
I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of the government. I don't know how you feel about government.
no.
How do you guys feel about the government?
See, if I had to position a fan of the government, it would be a fan in front of the government that one would hit with shit.
That sounds fair. Not a big fan myself.
Yeah.
I'm just I think they're just too intrusive. I think
Yeah.
it's like they act like they own you or something.
There's some of them where I'm kind of like, oh, bless his heart, he thinks he's doing something really good. Kind of like like when your cat brings you a dead pigeon and he's like, look, I brought you a gift. Oh.
Well, how many of them do you think that are out there that are actually like that, though? Do you think that let's take a stab percentage-wise where you think politicians are like really out there, oh, we're going to help the people and we're going to make things better. And what do you think?
I think those are like I don't know percentage wise, but I think there are quite a few of them. I think a lot of them are the quiet ones that don't make a lot of noise, and maybe they just live in a district where, you know, it's not a heavily competitive district maybe. But like, even like, because there's this theory that like every bad person thinks what he's doing is right and is good. Like even Hitler, right? Hitler thought what he was doing was good for his people and for the world. He just thought that like other people were cockroaches. And like, you know, you have like the world's biggest like the bank robbers, Bonnie and Clyde. They thought what they were doing was good because the banks are evil, so we're stealing from the banks. People who say eat the rich, they think what they're doing is good because they think the rich have all stolen from them. So there's a certain degree of that. I'm sure there are evil people that are like, I'm gonna fucking steal from people, and I don't care how wrong it is. There are those definitely those people, but I think there's a lot of people who think like even Bernie Sanders. I have this feeling like he thinks what he's doing is right and good, and he just doesn't understand economics at all. I think that's
after as long as he's been in federal government, you think that he still is like delusional? I don't know, man. That's a stretch. The dude ran for president multiple times and was screwed over by the DNC, and you don't think he understands how government
prove
works?
that he's delusional.
Yeah, it was a money making thing.
But everybody's working under the presumption, the shared illusion that is what can be done. That the government is an infinite supplier and it's an infinite resource. It has no bounds. It has no boundaries. It can do anything it says that it can do or pretend to do. It can say it's doing it and end up more or less doing the opposite and does not account for the unintended consequences and the actual cost of what they are proposing, what they're attempting to make happen. And it's essentially supporting an entire bureaucratic class, if you will.
I think that's actually the best argument against government is not how much damage it does, but how many unintended consequences it has. Because, like, look, we can argue all day about, you know, the war on drugs and how it's failed, but what if it worked? What if it was working perfectly, like a well-oiled machine? Does that mean they still have that right? No. So we I don't know. It's like, I guess that's not really the argument about unintended consequences, but I don't know. I think that's the thing. Like, even if government accidentally gets something right, it's completely wrong. Like, even if there's no negative effects of let's say there's one certain program, I don't know what it is, there probably isn't one, but like, let's say hypothetically, there was a perfect government program which negatively affected 0 people and positively affected a huge number of people. What would be our argument for government is bad at that point?
I don't know. I mean, my friend Eric, he works for NOAA, and his whole gig is dam removal, cooperating with various communities, and finding grants and getting it all together, and they remove dams to keep the water running and return the fish stocks and all of those things.
Man-made or natural?
And so yeah, he's sort of renaturalizing the waterways, and it's definitely it's not even arguably, it's a plus for the environment. And
are we talking about?
I've always quipped, you know, a lot of the radical environmentalists, the Earth Firsters, you know, we're always all about, you know, tear down the dams and what have you. But this friend of mine, you know, in the government context, has removed far more dams than Earth First ever could have hoped to. So there is that. I mean, it's interesting. I do bring him up as an example, and you know, yeah, I guess that could have happened without him being employed by the government, NOAA, and maybe he should be. Maybe he should just have a damn destruction agent, you know, one of those destruction companies. It's the opposite of
damn company.
A damn destruction company.
I work for the damn company. I work for the damn destruction company.
To Dan's point, I think, like, you know, when you just want to say government's bad, I think anytime you're saying anything as an absolute like that, I think the government can do good things. I think that what's bad about government is how it's funded and how it operates with force and coercion. So I think, you get to, when you get to like, smaller units, smaller collectives, and they form some type of body that's completely voluntary. I mean, it's a form of government, right? But if it's voluntary, it's not a bad
Right.
form of government, and people are going to call it a government. So why not pretend? Oh, my arm just disappeared. Why not pretend it's something different? So it's like, to say, we get so caught up in saying government's bad because every government around us is doing so many horrible things. But really, what we're really trying to say is that, force and coercion is bad, and
Yeah, that's a good
it just
point.
so happens that that's the way the government operates at this point.
Yes, I've always self-identified as an anarchist, always treated the state as my enemy and such. But hanging around with all these libertarians, I mean, it's like, am I turning into a minarchist? I don't know. There's an argument to be made.
Well,
and
that's the thing that a lot of
Libertarian
people
Party
say.
just turned Vermin into a minarchist. This is awful.
Well,
This
wait,
is awful.
and I have found that in my presidential discussions, or trying to sell the precept and ideas to the people, it often pays to be able to play the minarchist advocate, if you will.
right.
To say, okay, well, fine. That concern will take care of with just a little bit of government, and it seems to placate
But
them
that's-
enough that they're willing
that's like-
to accept the bigger ideas.
That's like a classic argument that I have with minarchists or statists is I guess with minarchists or anarchists actually, where they say government is the use of force and coercion. And it's like, okay, so let's say you have the government you have now, you remove all force and coercion, you remove all theft, all violence, and everything bad that they do, and you leave what's left. Like a really strict anarchist will say, well, that's not government. And I'm like, well, if you can convince a statist that is the best form of government, and they still call it a government, would you just let them fucking have it? Do you really care? You want to really fight with them over what they're going to call it, and you never get it because you're not going to allow them to call it what they want to call it. And isn't that an aggressive use of force to say, to tell them you're not allowed to call that a government because that's not a government?
Yeah, we get so hung up on talking about words and arguing over words, and it's just such an incredible waste of time. And that's where, we need to focus on the concepts and the ideas behind it, rather just right. I spend so much time trying to argue about the word capitalism because so many people on the left see that as such a dirty word, and everybody on the right thinks that capitalism means free market. And so let's just say what we really mean, rather than using these dirty words and trying to defend the words just because you feel like you have some ownership of it.
We need some sort of secret
pointless.
decoder rings or some sort of translation books. Could we perhaps come up with a translator book?
That's like the whole what do they call it? Newspeak, right? Like that's the whole concept of taking old words and redefining them, which is what happened to the word liberal, right? Liberal used to mean libertarian, and in Spain they still call it the Liberal Party. In Australia, I just found out the Libertarian Party, and I'm talking like real libertarians with lots of anarchists, is called the Liberal Democrat Party. So like it's all like an argument over words, and that's what they use against. So what's interesting about, like, because a lot, like you said about free markets and capitalism, I've started using the word fair markets because, well, it sounds fair. Everybody loves fairness. Everybody wants equality, which is fairness, right? So if you start to use those words that they use in context that they already like, meaning something that, like, well, what is a fair market? Well, it's just a market where everybody's allowed to make whatever exchange that they want. Well, it sounds like a free market. No, it's not a free market because it's not capitalism. It's just everybody owning themselves and making their own. And like you redefine, like, no, this is a new thing. And then it doesn't have those negative contexts because unfortunately that's how our brains work. Like you hear two words together and you're like, oh, I know what that is. I know what you're talking about. You're one of those crazy guys. But if you just change it from free market into fair market, they're like, oh, that's interesting. That's a new thing. I never heard of that before. What's that all about?
Well, and I've heard an argument too for using the term freed markets to indicate that this is something different from what we have right now. So a freed market where the government is not involved, where there's no coercion, no outside force. So instead of just saying a free market, we're talking about freed markets. Again, the connotation being that they don't currently exist.
Technically,
well, you know what I always say? I say if you don't own the means of production, don't complain about those who do.
I got your means of production
point.
right here.
I don't always say that. I think that's the first time I said it. I apologize.
And I don't want to be unfair to people who don't have hands either. Which is, there's a lot of people who don't have the use of their hands or don't have hands. We don't always think about them. I actually, when I was younger, I edited a documentary for a guy, I was editing a video for him, and he had a documentary, and I saw all this footage of this woman who, she didn't have any arms. And this documentary was about how she gets around and everything. And she was getting in there. She was driving a car. She would pull up a stool and sit in front of her sink, and she'd use her feet, and she'd wash her feet. She'd pull up a potato. She'd start peeling it, cutting it with a knife, and like putting it on a tray to like make some French fries. And like, it's amazing. And like, can you do that? Like, no. It's I don't know how we got to that, but
yeah, you pulled it out of your head there, Dan.
Yeah.
It popped into your head, and you decided to share it with us.
I got all kinds of weird stuff in there.
Thank you. No, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
No, the alter. Oh well, once again, a lot of people ask about the alter able. They're concerned about the ADA, and they believe that the government is needed to enforce the rights of alter able people.
Yeah, I've got one on my team. And he hates these government programs. He's like, the government's so he's got this crazy electric wheelchair, which the government would pay for him to have a wheelchair, but it can only be a certain type, and the certain type that he has because of his condition would like absolutely be destructive to his life, or would threaten his life. And so he has to get this other one, but it's super expensive because of government regulations and FDA approval and all this other fucking nonsense. And so, but he has to buy it himself because the insurance that he's been paying into when he was working no longer does not cover this model because the government does not deem that necessary. And this is like, unintended consequences. Well, we just created this one size fits all program. It'll be good for everybody. And he's like, no. And so it's people want to feel compassionate for those people and say, oh, we need government to take care of them. Have you ever stopped to ask them if government's doing a good job or if they would be able to do a better job themselves, maybe, especially if they were able to keep their own money that the government stole from them when they were working? Because a lot of those people are like, no, fuck that. The government's taking shit care of me.
Yeah, and I see that some of the unintended consequences of the ADA in construction a lot. I mean, there's so many things that it's just so many ridiculous things that have to be done on a project to accommodate, and I think that there's certain things that I think are important for, you want to be able to be handicap accessible if that's who your business caters to, or if you want to hire employees. But in a free market, in a free economy where you can hire who you want to hire, why should a business owner be forced to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of extra dollars to upfit their building to accommodate people that would never work in that industry? And I saw it time and time and time again. It was just, we had to put in, so I was working, and this was a government project. I was working for a project for the FAA in the tower, and we were remodeling the air traffic control tower. And in the bathroom, they had it was just like a one stall bathroom, and they wanted to add a urinal and then a stall. And they were like, well, there's not enough room because according to ADA, you have to have so much room. And they're like, but nobody that's handicapped can work this job. Like they can't get up to the cab because in order to, the elevator only goes up to one floor below the cab, and then you have to walk up the stairs to get to the cab. So nobody in an elevator can possibly work this job. But it didn't matter. The ADA applied, and they couldn't get the renovations they were looking for.
My codes.
Yeah, hey, what you get? They work for the government. They got screwed. It was perfect.
I want to actually, so my friend that I was just talking about, I want to give him a shout out because he's actually running for New York State House. Thomas Queter. Go look him up. He's an awesome guy. And you guys give a shout out to your favorite other libertarian candidate who's not me, because I know I'm your first favorite, but your second favorite.
Oh man, if it's not you, I don't know.
Well, my first favorite would be there's this guy. He was my favorite right up until a few minutes ago when he told me he might be becoming a minarchist. Now,
No,
I think now I need to
Just
rethink.
He was being sarcastic.
Oh, was he being sarcastic? God, I hope so. All right.
You will, yeah, but yeah. Burn all the ground. Whatever, fish shaw, whatever.
I mean, frankly, there's some, I've paid probably very little attention to some of the down ballot races, which is probably a horrible thing to admit as a presidential candidate.
Terrible person.
But somebody who's really jumped out, who's been pretty impressive, young guy, Richard Manzo. So the guy is from New Hampshire, I think, and recently got elected to a library board or something like this in his town. And right after he gets elected, within a week, boom, they shut it down. That goes on his libertarian resume forever.
I bet you they did that on purpose. They're like, we're going to show how bad a libertarian is.
It couldn't have worked out any better for the guy.
Oh, man.
Got a win already, and he didn't even have to do anything.
Right. The only thing that would have topped that is if, he would have found a private investor that he could sell the library to. That's the only thing that would have topped that.
Oh yeah.
Because look, I know they collect fines if you don't return your books on time, right? But that possibly can't cover their operating cost, right?
No.
Fines, a really prohibitive amount.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna pay that's gonna pay the guest speaker to come and read books to kids for a day or something.
Let's see. Yeah, where are the robber barons? How come the robber barons aren't building libraries these days? What's up with that?
Right. Well, that was
you get Andrew Carnegie.
Those guys.
Building libraries every which way.
They don't have any money because everybody's tax the rich.
Oh right, yeah, the rich are getting so unfairly taxed, Dan.
Well, no, but I mean, think about it. The early libraries, as Carnegie, Ben Franklin, they were people who built these libraries. Those were the early libraries. They weren't government funded. I mean, look, don't get me wrong.
Fact.
There are some rich assholes who are using government to get rich, and I'm absolutely against that. But there are just entrepreneurs who happen to make a lot of money, and there are entrepreneurs who use government hacks to steal from people and get subsidies and all other shit, and I absolutely hate that. But
or use government to secure monopolies. I mean, you're talking about
exactly.
You want to talk about Carnegie. I mean, Carnegie, Rockefeller. I mean, these guys were very deeply connected with the government, and benefited significantly from it.
That's true. Yeah, but I mean, that's
all a scam. It's all a scam.
Who's the only vice president who's ever been elected? Who's ever been vice president without having been elected? What's his last name?
Who's ever been?
Wasn't that Rockefeller?
Ford wasn't.
I believe it.
Who's Ford's vice president? Who was Ford's vice president?
Sure enough.
All I know is ever since I stopped paying taxes, I've had a lot of extra money to donate to all kinds of causes. Dog rescues, my friends in Uganda, but I'm trying to figure out how to do masks right now, because I know those are in short need. But yeah, I mean, once you stop paying taxes, there's more money to go around.
No, and that underlying point is obviously incredibly significant. Yeah, if you're
you're absolutely right about
to pay for things you don't want, you get to pay. You get to pay for things that you value and you think can help people.
Yeah, and I like your point too, man. I love you, man.
Can we scale that up? Can that be scaled up?
Yes.
To the
Stop
point where it becomes
stealing
feasible.
from people. And stop. People don't even understand this. When you're paying rent, 40%, 20 to 40% of your rent is going to the government in property taxes. And then that doesn't even include your landlord's income tax on that. And people hate landlords, but it's the only reason you have landlords is because the government won't let you own property. It's
The rent is too damn high.
It is.
Because of property taxes.
Exactly. And the property, look, I did this analysis on the FHA, right? Before the FHA, a bank, it was a high risk loan, right? We're gonna give you a shit ton of money to buy a house. That's risky. What's gonna happen if you don't pay? So they used to say, you know, you have to pay 50% down, which is like today's day would be like, oh my God, that's insane. Nobody has that much money. And we're only going to give you 5 years to pay it off. Well, here's the thing. If you walk in the bank and you say, I make $1,000 a month, or I have $1,000 a month to spend on my mortgage, if they're going to calculate the loan. Now, if they're charging you 50% down and you have to pay it off in 5 years, the loan they're going to give you is $100,000. But if you get to pay 3% down and you get to pay it off in 30 years, which is a government program, because that's high risk, right? If you miss your first payment, they just lost a shit ton of money because they're going to have to take it and auction it at a loss. They just lost a ton of money, but government backs it up, right? So when you got a loan like that, you're going to end up paying almost $400,000, or they're going to lend you almost $400,000. And if it's just like 2008, if the bank's giving everybody more money, the prices go up. So the price of a $100,000 house just became $400,000 because of the FHA, which means nobody can fucking afford it. It's
all a scam.
Exactly. You get rid of that, everybody owns a house.
It's my new tagline, I think. You like that?
Which one?
Yeah.
It's all a scam.
It's all
Vermin
a scam?
Supreme 2020.
Yeah. I love it.
Any of the availability of cheap money is what the problem is, and right now interest rates are at 0, right? I mean,
crazy.
That's pretty cheap money, you know.
It's a scam.
Crank those printing presses up full speed. Print some more cocaine straws.
Printing press goes.
Oh man.
Good stuff.
So, what are you guys doing for Easter? That's coming up this weekend.
Good
well,
question.
I remember Donald Trump said we could all go out and do Easter egg hunt stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. Wait. We get
planning on going to a big church service.
We could go to church, I think he said.
Really? So we're allowed to violate the social distancing order. We're allowed to all go out and get sick. Yeah. Is that wait? Is that why they're planning that thing on Easter Sunday? The whole like go out and protest on your city council, whatever, town hall?
Because I didn't even know it was planned for Sunday. No, I have no idea.
That's interesting. That's really actually kind of stupid, because it's like, oh yeah, the government's letting us out of our house for a day. Let's go protest.
Right. Well, that, you know what, and that brings up an interesting point. So getting back to like you were talking about, like, oh, we should like people going out, marching in the streets, fighting for our rights. And I wanted to bring up a point like that I've been saying forever is, you know, none of us have a big enough voice that we're going to start any kind of revolution. So what we need to be able to do is be able to be ready and be able to react to it. And it made what you just said made me think of the Virginia, the gun protest, the protests, right? And here they are, all these people, 30,000, 20, whatever it was, all these people armed, you know, there to protest the government. And yet none of them could take it upon themselves to actually do any type of protest that violated the law. They all did a rally. They all did a march. The government said, look, stay out of this area. It's fenced off. And they're like, we're law-abiding citizens. We're going to stay out of that area that's fenced off. Like, man, grow a set of balls. Like, everybody's armed there. Occupy that space around the Capitol. That's a protest. That's how you protest the government. You don't show up and be like, okay, government, we're going to obey all the rules that you made for us because we're good law-abiding citizens. And that shows how willing we are to protest. Like, all that shows is like you're a fucking bootlicker, right? So if you're just going to show up and be a bootlicker, what you're saying means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that was like just a giant ass free speech zone, really.
Right.
And they complied. Yeah. And then I mean it sucks. And I get it too. There's a lot of fear. I like that he got the diamond studs on there. That's
pretty fancy.
Bedazzled, yeah.
Is that like, Vermin, do you have like a formal boot and an informal boot, or you just have the one?
This one I only wear to black tie events.
I've got more boots than you can ever imagine. You remember that Batman movie when he's like down in the Bat Cave and goes up to the thing and pushes a button and the plexiglass thing goes up and the nitrous the nitrogen pours out of it and you reach in and my butler puts it on my head, but also.
Nice.
Oh, I would figure you have like a machine that's like.
Well, that's what I call my butler machine.
Your
yeah.
butler presses the
one of
button.
one of those butler machines, you know.
He controls the little thing. It's like the little claw game where it's like it makes the.
Yeah, like that. Totally like
Man.
that.
Somebody's got to make a cartoon image now of Vermin standing in front of his boot selection in the morning.
Yeah, right. In the Batcave. Yeah, that actually could like imagine if you like cut a little couple holes in there and you pull it down a little bit further.
Could like Weird Harold,
like the bat mask.
Totally, that would be super cool. Maybe I would. Look out, people.
Is your beard getting longer?
Nope.
I got this like look at this mess I got up here from the fucking.
Oh man, yeah, it's bad. I went out and bought clippers, and my sons gave each other haircuts, and I'm like, I kind of do a fade on mine. Like they do this kind of undercut, and there's like a line, you know, so anybody can do that. My son's like, oh, I'll give you a haircut. I'm like, I don't know, man. I better plan it on some time when I don't have to be on camera for a couple weeks, just in case.
I've been, cause like I've always, you remember Napoleon Dynamite where Pedro like shaves his head and he's like, it was so hot. Like, dude, I totally get like that in the summer. And I used to cut my own hair with the clippers, and I'm totally feeling that right now. And I've just been like, but the clippers I have, they're just like for like beard trim. So I'm just like, dude, I'm so tempted to just fucking shave it all off and pull a Pedro, man.
Do it, dude.
Looks warm enough to do. Looks warm enough we're out to do that.
It absolutely is. I should. Which, by the way, you both are invited down here anytime. I mean, now it's like a shitty time, but anytime you want to come, just hit me up. I'm mi casa es su casa.
Well, thank you.
As they say here.
Likewise, we have guest shacks out back too.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll go back up there when it's a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
Fucking New Hampshire is freezing. No,
I'll be started. I've started grooming the mini putt golf course in the woods.
Yeah.
So yep, things are looking like we might be playing this season. Last year was a little busy, but this year I think we might have an actual tournament. Perhaps we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
How many people are you going to invite to your tournament?
I don't know. I guess it all depends on the infection rate and things like that at the time. But I'm seeing it towards later in the summer, so you know things should be mellowed out by then.
All right, here's one arm and golf clubs distance away.
Here's a serious question. Speaking of later in the summer, so what are your guys' thoughts on the idea of pushing the convention to July? I've heard rumors about this. Do you think that's? Do you think there's a net positive to doing that, or do you think that getting it over with in some kind of digital format, virtual conference convention would be better? I mean, we're talking about
if we delayed it like that, we would have to pull some serious shenanigans, like issuing press releases to like CNN and Fox News and everything from every single one of our campaigns saying that we've officially won by default. And then just have like bombard them with like, oh my God, there's a big scandal going on in the Libertarian Party, and everybody's claiming to be because I mean, here's the thing: if we have it late, we lose the opportunity of whatever mainstream media coverage we're gonna get the minute we declare a winner.
Right, we lose 2 months worth of coverage.
Yeah,
because they're talking about doing it in July, so a month and a half to 2 months. I think that's huge.
It is. So we have to figure out how to, because like I mean, look, the mainstream it doesn't care about us until we have our nominee, unless you're Lincoln Chafee and you have like $1 billion to like, you know, fucking blow whoever he blew.
Does he have $1 million?
Yeah, apparently he's like worth a shit ton of money.
Oh.
Which I mean,
I should have been nicer to him.
Right? I mean, he's been elected how many times to how many different offices? You know, he's got to have some bribe money in there somewhere.
Gotta have a hobby.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that being said, like I think delaying it is a problem. However, if ultimately the party is going to select somebody who's a complete dud, I don't know that it matters when they do it, really. Thanks. I asked this question on Facebook earlier.
There's already been, I mean, the whole ballot access is becoming problematic. Collecting
Yeah.
signatures is becoming problematic. I don't know. It
Well,
seems there's not a lot of good options.
here's the way I see it, and especially looking at Bernie Sanders' campaign, because his um, he raised a lot of money from individual donors, and I think especially with my healthcare plan, and if you guys want to adopt it, go for it. My healthcare plan has been very successful with Bernie Sanders supporters because, like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you look at them and it's like they're single issue voters, right? Or a lot of them, right? It's either healthcare or rent, whatever it is. And if you solve that problem by any means, and there's nobody else trying to solve that right now, Trump's not trying to do it, Biden's not trying to do it. And if you present them with this, then we can win those voters. And if we can together, pull all of these this support who's now just pissed off because they just lost their favorite candidate, and we can get them to support us with $5 a month, which I know is really tough right now for everybody because of losing jobs and everything else. But if we can support that and we can take that and just run with it, because ultimately we need what we're doing is grassroots campaigning. We're creating a movement and we're teaching new things that people are not used to. And so it's not going to happen overnight. It is going to take a lot of time. And the more exposure we have, the more money we have, the more exposure we have, the more people we can reach and give them these new ideas. And when, now, like, as that grows, when Trump tweets about like, oh, we're just going to give you some money instead, and 1 million people reply to his tweet and say, fuck you, just stop taking our money that we earn. Stop telling us that we have to stay home and not work. When that starts happening, that's going to put pressure on all the people who are elected, and that's going to change things. And it's also going to create like this whole resonance throughout society where other people start joining this movement. So I think really, like, there are ways that we can continue this movement with or without the nomination, before the nomination, and I think we should really just work together and push that. Vermin's like, but where the fuck are my ponies? Where do they fit into this equation?
Agreed. I don't know. It's moving the thing. Yeah, that's gonna cut us all off. And they're just gonna try and cut us out of the equation any way they possibly can anyway. And obviously they're using this event just as a pretext to do just that. And we will have to adapt, and we do have to adapt. I trust the bylaws, and I'm if the LNC has to make that choice, I mean that's what the bylaws say. I don't know if there's a mechanism to alter the bylaws, but if they're talking about straw polling the delegates and having a virtual convention and then just having the LNC make that ultimate choice while using the guidance of the delegates, I think that could work. I don't have a huge problem with that.
Hey, it looks like Bill Ray Sparks is a Bernie voter and hasn't voted yet. Are you thinking about voting Libertarian at this point? Let's see what happens in the comments. But yeah, no, you're absolutely well. So here's the way I see it. Whatever the LNC does, the LNC is going to do, and we might have some influence over that. We might not, but I think what I'm saying is, whatever they do, we need to shift our strategy and make sure that we're all making the biggest impact that we possibly can. Regardless of what happens, because ultimately this is, and Vermin, I know you've been in this game for a long time. Brian, you've been in it for several years. I've been in it for several years. For me, this is a long game. I mean, I'm going to be doing this until I'm 90, because if we don't win by that time, I'm still going to be fighting. And I know you guys are too, because you're that committed to understanding freedom. But freedom! Exactly. So shift our strategy whatever way possible, and spread it as fast as we possibly can, reach as many people as we possibly can, and do as much as we can. And that's really all we can do.
Absolutely. I mean, this is once again, it's a huge opportunity. It's a terrible disaster. It's a crazy set of circumstances, and we need to be able to take advantage of it to the best of our ability. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible sickness, but the implications and the far-reaching ramifications, we need to be on top of that shit. And especially with the quick shift in the political landscape, if we can, convince those who were supporting Senator Sanders and Yang to come our way as well they should. Instead of that Green Party, Howie Hawkins. Don't get me started. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we on TV? I'm sorry.
Yes, CNN actually right now.
Forget I said that.
Syndicated.
Don't tell Howie Hawkins I said that. Okay, he's okay. He's
Well,
for a commie, he's okay. But,
frankly, I would be like, and this is probably not a popular thing for a libertarian to say, but if all of those progressives shifted away from the DNC, I don't care whether they come to the Libertarian Party or the Green Party, but I really hope they come to their senses that their home is not in the DNC. They will never be welcome there. They will never be able to push whatever their agenda is. They'll never get what they're looking for. They get just enough. They're given just enough to appease them, to make them feel like they belong, because the DNC needs that voting block in order to win. Right. And I think that, it's when that group finally realizes, like, look, this is not our home. These people don't represent, they're paying lip. This is a government of, the middle of the road neoliberals, government bailouts. This is not a party that cares about people and the issues, like the issues that Bernie Sanders brings up. And like, Dan mentioned, these issues are issues that we can solve. We can solve, that we already talked about student loan debt. How do we solve that? All right, your student loan debt's illegitimate. It's canceled, like, done, right? We talk about, healthcare, getting and you look at how healthcare has been handled with the current crisis, how the government has just massively fucked it all up. And if the free market was providing, everybody would be able to be tested. Everybody could decide for themselves, hey, if we're sick, we can take the precautions. If we're not sick, and we could know instantaneously, rather than all this guessing game and all this unnecessarily lockdown. So I think that if we, those progressives, when they realize, like, you have just kind of been going about it the wrong way. Stop going to the government and begging them for the solutions. The government is causing these problems. Come to the Libertarian Party. We're going to get the government out of the way, and we're going to solve your problems.
Ryan,
Absolutely.
I like the way that you can make your hand invisible. It really illustrates the point.
Yeah, no,
I got to get a green screen. What do you want from me?
That is a really great point, though, man. I mean, that's really the point I've been and it's not just the Bernie Sanders supporters. I mean, there are a lot of Trump supporters who don't entirely agree with what he says. There are a lot of Republicans who absolutely hate Trump. There are so many. There are people who supported Hillary Clinton who are just pissed off at the way things are going, and it really just takes that seed for them to be able to say, oh, okay, I get it. Like, all these problems are actually, in fact, created by government. Even though government's trying to solve them, whenever they try to solve them, they create another one. It's an excellent point, and it really works with everybody. We just have to figure out...
It's all a scam!
Exactly. We just have to figure out the message to get that point across to everybody, because everybody is interested. Everybody's eyes are on a different problem. And we just have to show that, like, no, that's still the same problem, government.
Well, I'll tell you one way that you absolutely cannot reach out to those people, and that's by leading with, let's abolish Social Security.
Right.
Like, this kind of that kind of ridiculous, like, yeah, we get it. Social Security sucks. Social Security should go away. But throw it in front of the American people, and especially when right now the low-hanging fruit again is the progressives. And I don't mean to call people fruit. I mean, the reality is that's the biggest voting block that we can cater to at this point. I mean, there can be an argument made, but I'm saying, like, we need to know our audience. And you go out there with this stupid paleo-conservative tripe of, like, we're all this stuff that's important that gets the dicks hard of these guys on the right talking about their Austrian economics, and it falls completely flat. Like, okay, as soon as you come out on the stage and you say, what the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to abolish Social Security. Okay, next.
Wah, wah.
Right. Okay, so we get it. We get it, dude. Your heart's in the right place. You want to abolish Social Security. Great. Okay, save that for later. Okay, that's not the audience we're talking to right now.
Yeah, I mean, because realistically, people want to understand, like, okay, well, if you get rid of Social Security, who's going to take care of the elderly? And like, what I like to do is, because there's a perfect example for that. You talk about how have you ever met anybody who's living on Social Security and that's their only source of income? They don't live a very happy life. They're barely squeaking by sometimes. They can't make their rent. There's all these other issues. Is that the situation you want to be in, or do you want to take the money that you're earning right now, put that in a private investment, and have a much better life for yourself? Actually own the home you live in, and all these other things. And then people are like, yeah, that sounds so much better. And it's like, okay, so let's start working towards that. And then at some point, you actually get people who are like, yeah, we should just totally get rid of the system. It's absolutely worthless. But you can't do that when you first talk to them, and their belief is that, well, that's the only system that there is, and even if it's not perfect, it's all we have. Like, yeah, you got to get past that and educate them before you can say we're going to take it. Because if that's all they have, it's not perfect, but that's all we have. Yeah, and we're going to take it away from you. No, that fucking doesn't work.
Right. And people have learned, like, when you, especially when you're talking about Social Security.
You sound like a statist, dude.
The government has shaped the culture, though, because when the government came in and said, you know what, you no longer have to plan for your retirement, and you don't have to worry, your kids don't have to worry about taking care of you in your old age. The government's going to do it. I mean, that changed how people had less kids, people had smaller families, and because of that, now you have a lot of people that were like dependent on this government solution to their problem. And if you pull that rug out from under them, despite the fact that they've invested in this program for their entire life, they pump money into it. At some point, we need to be talking about equity. At some point, we need to be talking about when the government destroys people's lives, we need to offer them a solution that doesn't just say, well, the government fucked you over, so here we go. We're going to get rid of government and you're going to be fucked forever. Like, I just don't think that that's a great solution.
Right. Stop buying the pipe dream.
How about that time in that debate there where I introduced my dog food for seniors program? That was pretty funny.
How is that? How's that any worse than what they have now?
Yeah.
Speaking of debates, there was one where Hornberger does this little thing about about get rid of Social Security, whatever, seniors are going to be on their own or whatever, and it's followed up by Joe Jorgensen talking about the coronavirus and saying, oh, it's no big deal because it just affects poor old people. It's like, this is like the perfect combo. It's like, the 1-2 punch. We got Hornberger that's going to take away all their money, and Joe Jorgensen says, well, it's not a problem because they're all going to be dead anyway.
And people say the Libertarian Party is tone deaf.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Vermin, you've been quiet.
Quiet? I thought I was being loud and obnoxious here and there, but
no.
As you like.
I mean, relatively quiet, I guess.
Relatively quiet.
Dude, you got over 100,000 followers today. What was that? 100,000 likes on your Facebook page?
Yes. I surpassed 100,000 on that. That was creeping up there. I think that was probably from the Bernie bump, maybe.
That's right.
Yeah, I got over 1.5 million likes on TikTok. For what that's worth, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm a social media monster. What can I tell you? It's a very interesting thing going on there. It's hard to keep up with it these days, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think that people really underestimate the value of that. Like, especially in this kind of election cycle that we're in right now, and depending on how, I don't know how the fall's going to turn out, but how things are right now, like, that's the reach. Social media, people are glued to social media 24 hours a day, right? Well, whatever, they're sleeping, I'm sure, some of the time.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the Twitter thing is pretty amazing. I've been lurking that, and I'll Twitter search my name, and it's just like literally hundreds upon hundreds of people that are just saying they're pledging their support or saying they're going to vote for me or whatever. It's a pretty amazing constant barrage and stream of people who know my name at least and want to support it. Oh.
You should post your stats into the delegates group, because I mean they don't understand this, and I mean I know there's a lot of people who are supporting Hornberger, and of course I'm in the lead, but like they don't understand that, like, so Hornberger, like, I agree with most of his message, but I don't think he's got much reach outside of the libertarian circle, because, like, exactly what Brian was saying, like, he says we're going to get rid of this and this and this, which is great for libertarians, but outside that doesn't play well. And if you show your reach, like if you post your statistics and say, because that's what a lot of libertarians don't understand is what reach is. They figure, oh no, we're going to get another boring old guy in a suit who looks just like a regular politician who everybody is sick of, and somehow that's magically going to make everything work out for us. And it's like, no, it's not. It didn't last time. You tried it with Gary Johnson. He got record-breaking numbers, which was 3%. And nothing against the guy, even though I'm not his biggest fan, I've said before, but like that's the thing. He's just another politician to most people. Why would they leave their big party for somebody else who's just like the people in their big party? Oh, this guy's probably lying to me, and why should I trust him, especially if he's with a little party, because the big parties probably wouldn't.
Well, certainly, I mean, I don't think any of the Bernie supporters would be readily receptive to a clip of Mr. Hornberger, gonna take out Medicaid day one.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's the party I'm looking for. Compassion for the people. Exactly. So yeah, no, I'd say my reach is definitely gives me a good leg up, especially in the new landscape. I think it's probably the only thing that could possibly gain traction, especially if it's an online convention. I don't see anybody but a very select sub group of political paying attention people, and I think the media will find it very easy to ignore, especially if it's if the candidate doesn't have a real hook, perhaps.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, like, like, if we get any mainstream media attention for any candidate, that's wonderful, but we can't count on it. I mean, we have to, the social media, email lists, direct contact, getting a group of fanatic supporters who are willing to go door to door and spread the word. That's really where it is, because we can't. I mean, we're if the mainstream media looks at us, they're going to be like, well, we're not going to advertise those guys. If they ever got elected, they're going to hurt our bottom line. We're going to go out of business. We're going to lose all our advertisers because we're not going to have all these big monopolies, like, with trillions of dollars to throw at us. Like, they're probably going to lose advertising. Oh, you're promoting that guy. We're pulling our advertising and moving to Fox News. Like, that's what's going to happen. We don't have special favors to sell.
No. But we'll see. I mean, obviously, a Supreme candidacy gives an irresistible hook that I don't think the media will be able to resist. I think just that what the fuck are they doing? What the fuck happened? What's going on there will ultimately be irresistible, and that gives us the opportunity to tell them and show them a thing or two. If nothing else, it just makes a true, incredible statement of people's discontent.
Yeah, that was the Trump effect. They thought they were, like, totally just destroying any chance he had to win by talking shit about him 24/7, and all they were doing was helping him.
Yep, true that. The whole bucket of deplorables, and well, I think Bernie would have put up a really good match. I think if Bernie was the nominee in 2016. I think he could just as easily have become the president as Trump did.
I agree. I think people were looking for a wild card. People were looking for something different, and Bernie was something different than although he's been a career politician, he was something different than the establishment. He wasn't Hillary Clinton. He wasn't a Bush. He was, and so you would have had two kind of, again, wild cards, two two very different looking politicians to what people are used to seeing as president. And I think that I still can't for the life of me understand why the Democratic Party latched on to Biden. I think he's a complete disaster. I think that they're absolutely throwing the selection away.
There was probably like some fucking caucus that was like, yeah, we own this place, and Biden's our guy, because they're probably like old, 90-year-old, idiots who are just like, yeah, well, we grew up with Biden and he's our guy and we owe it to him because he did all these amazing favors for us back. Like, you know how it goes. The same kind of crap goes on in our party.
I mean, are they just considering this a throwaway year though? I mean, like, because assuming Trump's going to get elected.
They are now.
I mean, they have to be. They have to be. Like, oh, let the old man run. He earned it. He put in his time.
Let Trump finish destroying the country.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
set us up for 2024.
I don't think either of them would have beat
Things
Trump.
are going to get so bad by 2023 that we can't.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like some accelerationism or something.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. There's something going on there.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
we can't figure that shit out.
So,
hopefully their loss, our gain. All I know is if we're successful, we will get the blame and they will hate us very much.
Yeah, especially if we cover the spread. So I know I told you guys the show is going to be about an hour. It is an interesting conversation. I'm happy to keep going if you are. If you guys got stuff to do, I'm not going to hold you up. This is a voluntary system here.
Well, I do have a few things that I must attend to. But I want to
Vermin Supreme is surrendering.
We beat Vermin Supreme.
I win. He's leaving. I outlasted
and then there
him.
were two.
Congratulations on your promotion.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to give you both an opportunity to plug yourself, plug your websites. Of course, your websites are right below your pictures over there. But take a minute to plug yourself, plug your campaign, thank your campaign team, whatever you want to do.
Sir?
Well, I'll jump there and I'll thank my campaign team. Thank you, campaign team. I see him every week anyway on the Zoom calls. But yeah, shout out to y'all. Y'all doing amazing work. Of course, want to thank you very much, Dan, for having me here. Nice little thing we had. Brian, indeed, lovely. If you're all more interested in my campaign website, please check out verminsupreme2020.com right there. And especially if you are unfamiliar with the breadth and depth of my history of activism, please do take this quarantine opportunity to watch the feature-length documentary, Who is Vermin Supreme? An Outsider Odyssey. It's available on Vimeo, and it covers a lot of ground up to the point where it ended in 2013. But I think it gives a really good background, and it give you a more solid idea if especially if on the off chance that you are viewing this and still only know Vermin Supreme as the meme from the internet or the guy who does all the crazy shit with the boot on his head on the YouTubes. So I'm on Twitter at Vermin Supreme. I am at the real Vermin Supreme on the TikTok. Once again, with over 100,000, I think it's 130,000 followers now. And the newly 100,000 follower Vermin Supreme for President on Facebook. I think I'm also on Instagram, but I can never remember the address there. It's Vermin Supreme for President or Vermin Supreme 2020. I think there's a subreddit and a Discord and probably any other thing that those kids do. One of those DeviantArts and Tinders and I don't know. I can't keep track of them all. But suffice it to say that together we will get through these trying times, and we will be stronger for them, and we will have a much better appreciation for what we are attempting to do with our various projects. I ask that you all keep up the good works and the voluntarism and the mutual aid and the charity that you are all practicing, and checking in on your loved ones and washing your hands and not sneezing anywhere where you shouldn't be sneezing, and all of those freaking things, all the medical recommendations that make a fair amount of sense, and the ones that the government employ question. I mean, you saw that married couple yesterday. I saw it on my feed where it's like a cop come up and is trying to force them to engage in 6-foot social distancing. They're married, they live together, and the cop is threatening to write them a ticket. What the fuck is that all about? So obviously the government's taking this opportunity to consolidate and turn the screws, and let's be ready for that, and let's be ready to respond, and let's respond. Let's continue the response, and all of these things. Thank you.
Awesome. And definitely, if you're at home watching Tiger King, switching over to Who is Vermin Supreme might actually be a nice change of pace.
Yeah, we got a couple eccentrics. There's Jimmy McMillan in that movie, and Rob Patillo. I mean, they're not as interesting the eccentrics in that in the Lion King, but still, check it out, and thanks a lot, guys. Have a real good night, and peace out.
All right, and Brian, oh, he just disappeared. Hang on a second.
Dipped.
He's like, yeah, screw you guys, I'm out of here.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
I'm going home. Yeah, so like I don't even know what I'm staring at, but like it totally readjusted the screen. So hang on a second here. Let me see if I can turn this back into something normal. There we go. That works. How do I? There we go.
Am I good to talk then?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll be pretty brief. So, I kind of echo some of what Vermin said. But obviously, I also recommend everybody play it safe. Don't go out if you don't have to go out. If you do have to go out, and while I don't recommend engaging in protests, I think that's just stupid. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's counterproductive. However, if you are out and about and you are approached by a law enforcement officer and asked for your essential worker papers or where you're going, like, tell them to fuck off. Like, you owe that to them at that point. Like, I'm not telling anybody to go out looking for trouble, but if it comes to find you, don't play their game. Like that, that just feeds into it. So, exercise your freedoms anytime you're given that opportunity, but also play it safe. So you can follow me. You can find me on Twitter. B. Ellison says hi. I have a very small following on Twitter, so go follow me. I'll try and be more interesting. Facebook, you can find me Brian Ellison political activist. My website, brianellison.me. And I also want to follow up by saying that right now the Libertarian Party is running a contest for presidential candidates to bring in new members. And so if you are out there and you're considering, do I want to be a member of the Libertarian Party or do I want to renew my membership? I would request that you log on to lp.org/Brian Ellison or lp.org/Daniel Berman or lp.org/Vermin Supreme, and you renew or get your membership by one of your favorite 3 candidates that just participated in this podcast. I don't know what it is. Conversation.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So if you're up for renewal or you want to get a membership, choose your favorite candidate. Very simple format, lp.org/name, and make, or if you just want to make a donation, make a donation. The contest is being measured in 2 separate ways, one by individual new members and one by the most amount of money raised. So donate, join, please.
Awesome. And of course, I'm running for president too, Berman2020.com. Or I guess the website I have on the screen is taxationistheft.cards, because technically I'm running a podcast here. I'm not running a thing to promote my presidency. But I mean, if these guys are going to do it, I'm going to fucking do it. And yeah, go there. And on my website, you will have links to all of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, that's what you guys need to do. You don't have to list them all out. Just say, go to my website and click the things and get to all the things. But I want to say this because you brought up a good point about telling the cops to go fuck off. And there was this, there were these guys who did this thing. I think it's Michael Picard in no relation to the Star Trek guy. He's in New Jersey, or they drove from New Jersey into New York, or from somewhere into New Jersey to Rhode Island, something like that. And so there were these police, and they were stopping people, right? It's just like a random stop. And the deal is, they called the police ahead of time and said, what's this stopping people that you're doing? And they said, oh yeah, well, it's just voluntary. You don't have to stop. So if the cop's driving behind me and he turns his lights on, I don't have to stop. And he's like, no, you don't have to stop. Well, what if I don't stop? Is he going to run me off the road or something? Because, now I'm evading police, right? They literally told him, you don't have to stop when there's a police officer behind you with his lights going off. And so they did this, they tested this, and of course, they pulled over anyway, right? Because they're like, well, let's see what this cop is going to say. The cop came to their window, and of course, he's standing way far back, and he's like, yeah, can I see your information, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I don't have to show you that, right? I mean, this is like a total voluntary stop. We're free to go. And the cop's like, yeah, you're free to go. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to leave. Okay, first of all, this police department just gave anybody permission to not stop for a police officer with his lights on if you believe that you did nothing wrong, which, hey, I would love that freedom. Next time police gets behind me with their lights on, I'm just going to keep going and be like, he's probably just trying to stop me for some voluntary stop. The next thing that's interesting is that this cop, if those people didn't know any better, they would have been like, yeah, here's my license. They would have checked for warrants. They would have done all this other bullshit. And they would have complied. Oh, do you mind if I search your car? Yeah, go ahead, search my car. Oh, found this joint. Oh, then you didn't know that was there. I didn't know. Like, all this shit would have happened, but it was a voluntary stop, and the cop knew it, and he knew he was violating the Constitution, and they called him on it. So this is why, exactly like you said, call them on their bullshit and say, you don't have the right to do this. Fuck off. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna. You're not gonna give me a ticket. Of course, if you go to my website, I have a thing that you can download. It's a hall pass. It says I'm part of the Vermin 2020 campaign team, which makes me an essential employee, and I have the right to go wherever the fuck I need to go because this is free speech. Or just tell them to fuck off because that's the thing. This is our right. And I totally agree on you with being safe. I do like to say go out to protests, but if you do go out, do the same precautions. Keep your distance, keep your face covered, sneeze into your arm, all this, like, be safe. Like, I'm not telling people to like go out and like start, licking the deodorant aisle and like all this crazy shit that people are doing, but be safe, but demonstrate that we're not going to put up with this shit. Because let's be honest, this is going to extend beyond whatever the actual threat is with this virus. There's going to be a lot of the shit that's still in place 5 years from now if we don't push back on it. So with that, thanks for watching, guys. Taxation is Theft. Brian Ellison, Vermin Supreme, Dan Berman, your only three choices for president, I think, at this point. We'll see you next time. Taxation is theft.
Please, at least leave us alone in our living room.
My job is to find the truth.
Double the taxes. I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. Triple the taxes.
This is an IRS agent's dream.
If you think that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourself.
Beautiful, lovely taxes.
Sorry, but I don't do taxes.
Did you see the memo about this?
The government is a greedy piglet.
Just leave us alone.
Do you know what Ralph just said?
The roads.
You boys like Mexico?